Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I am your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I also have a couple closed Facebook groups for roadies, one called Death by Loadout, another one called the Backstage Pass. With me tonight is my dear, good, wonderful human being of a friend, Kyle Thomas. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, Vinny. How about yourself, brother?
Buddy, where's the energy at tonight, baby?
I'm here. I'm happy. We just had a busy week.
It was a busy week. Talk to me about it. Tell me your story.
Well, first, I'd like to thank Bob St. Laurent for last week's show. That was amazing. Incredible gentleman.
He's got a ton of energy. He's, he does this for a living. So, like you said, 24 breaks a day in his show. He's got to come up with content. He's a cat. He's a good guy. It was fun.
Yeah, we talked for a while after the show. It was so much fun hearing his stories he couldn't share with y'all. But
yeah,
maybe we can deal with it.
Yeah.
Maybe come up with a Patreon tier or something like that. Because speaking of which, just like to transition into us setting up this Patreon, I think we did a little too premature.
Yeah, we got a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I think we were hoping that the wallet was just going to be fed and we would be able to take it out eventually. But I guess the Patreon doesn't work like that. So our fault for mentioning it a little early.
But speaking more in depth about Patreon, as we get it set up, what the thinking was we were going to either add an extra show, which is kind of common. There's a little something extra for the folks that help us out with the Patreon, so we give them a little extra content. Or at the very minimum, we have a kind of an after show thing that happens here. When the show is done on any given show, we start kind of trading the inside baseball stories between ourselves and kind of talking about some stuff we're not as comfortable talking about on the open airwaves. So we haven't nailed it down. We'll let you kids know when we do, but I think that's what you're referring to, huh?
Yeah. I think we'll come up with some tiers.
We'll put a little extra beef into the Patreon side of it to give you a reason to go to the Patreon for a little extra content, a little extra something they can only get there.
You got it, yeah.
Fantastic. What else you got online?
So anyways, would also like to thank Large Screen Video. We couldn't do it without those gentlemen. We just were thinking about John Rigney the other day, so just wanted to give a condolence to everybody and let them know we're holding this show down in his spirit, and we're hoping that his family and everything's doing well.
That's very sweet. I couldn't agree with you more. John Rigney was, just so you know, John Rigney and Cameron Brown were basically the founders of Large Screen Video. And these two did more to bring LED into this. First, they started big with projection. They really, I can't state this enough, they were really out front of these movements, with bringing the visual content to live production. And so they were way ahead of the curve for years and years.
Groundbreaking ideas.
Really groundbreaking. And then they had the big projector systems, and they owned that. That was like their fucking area. And then John started getting into the LED, the LED. And so he went over and he shopped and sourced the proper LED and sorted that all out and brought that into the picture and really quickly changed the norm across the industry. And then they built up Large Screen Video, this very large company that does huge productions. And we're dear friends with them. And then, sadly, we had John on the show last year. Absolute treat. He was a man with many opinions and an extraordinary sharp mind. I mean, I used to love going to lunch with him. He'd sit with an hour with that guy and go back and forth about politics and shit in the business. And I mean, he was quick, man. And he just passed away one day, and his lazy boy was awful and sad, and we miss him. And of course, we want to send a lot of love on top of what you just said to the wonderful people at Large Screen Video, Cameron Brown and the folks, and his lovely wife, John's wife over there, keeping that thing going. And they help us out a great deal with the LED behind me, the cameras in front of me. They're dear friends of ours, so a lot of love to those cats.
Yeah.
And
we wouldn't have half this show if it wasn't for them. So
it's simple as that. When we first were thinking about it, we reached out to John, and he was super behind it. He got it immediately. I think he was our fourth or fifth guest on the show, and he really enjoyed what we were doing, and so we appreciate that. Cameron lets us still, participate and is a supporter of what we do. We'll hope to have Cameron on the show here sometime soon.
Hopefully. Yeah, and then speaking of the shows coming up, we got. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
See? That's the only way you remember.
Brown.
You've got to write it down. If he writes it down, it's important.
Anything. Yeah. No, he's a dear friend. You were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the show coming up, I mean, we really got to hold it to them. We got Pyro Pete coming up, Toby Francis, Janet Muffy. Alejandro.
So I think what you're saying is we got some big hitters coming up on the guest list. We're very lucky. You know, tonight we've got an amazing guest. We've been very lucky to Toby Francis's Kiss and Kanye and
massive. You got some nuggets.
Aerosmith. I mean, he's kind of the godfather. And Jan Alejandro and his lovely wife Muffy are Jan and Al Cases. And of course both of their history between studio, roadie stuff through the 70s and 80s is like the who's who. It's the storybook of early rock and roll. And and of course he just survived a really
serious surgery.
Serious surgery with a quadruple bypass about 3-4 weeks ago.
So many blessings to him and his family.
Yeah, and I love these people, and I miss them, and so they're going to come up, and we're going to do the dinner thing, and we might run off to the antique swap meet together, and then we'll film a show at the same time somewhere in there.
There you go.
So we're really lucky to have that.
You might catch Vinny out on the swap meet right there.
Yeah, well, you know, my chick, who I love more than anything on the planet, loves antiques. I'm sitting in her antique chair as we speak. Because
it's a beautiful chair, my friend.
It stops me from swiveling. I'm antsy, so she got me the right. Like that's the chair. no more swivelable chairs.
Hey, speaking of which, we did. Speaking of people that passed, we recently lost Jake Hurd. That was local one.
Jake Hurd.
Yes, sir. Local 134. He passed. I think last week. So I just want to give a quick condolence to everybody in 134 and.
I'm probably feeling that pretty hard. He knew his job. He was good at what he did, and he was kind of a leader in that outfit. And that's sad. It's super sad. Big loss.
Yeah, gentlemen.
Big loss for 134. You know, shout out to you kids. Hearts with you.
And you know, it's nice, even though we're losing friends left and right. I feel like this year
it's been weird.
It's finally work is starting to present itself.
Yeah, that's right.
We're slowly dusting off cases and getting things moving around the shop.
Yeah.
Communicating a bit more. My schedule is filling out more and more. It's feeling good. So
yeah, I agree. You know, as I try to book the show, I'm reaching out to my friends across the nation and really across the pond, across the world, and I am getting conflicts with their scheduling because they're starting to get booked again, which is kind of a good problem. You know, right. I want that to be that way. I want to have to figure out how we're going to get it done where I can steal an hour of their time out of what's going to be a very busy schedule coming up, because the shows we're talking about are all the way forward in early June. You know, the shows here with Beyond the Backstage Pass. And so trying to, you know, with like Pyro Pete, Cappadocia, I mean, he's
busy.
Yeah, he is one of the top pyro guys in the game. If you see some shit blowing up on stage, it's the glorified arsonist Pyro Pete doing it. As simple as that. He's fucking the best. And we just booked him today for something 2 months from now. But we'll have to, you know, I have a feeling we'll have to do a little wiggling around to make things happen as we go forward. And we'll just find a way, you know. That's what we do in this business. So
we're also talking about the pod seating. Who knows if the pod seating is actually going to come up again. Because I think a front of house article posted about it. This month's article is like basically this pod view of like a 8x8 risers, maybe a little bit bigger. And then they're claiming that might be the future. So who knows when we get back to work what actually is going to be.
Well, I wish I had what was that front of house magazine we were looking at earlier? One of our you know, periodicals came in, and it had this extraordinary picture kind of from the front of house position towards the stage. And it looked like a bunch of little corrals. It must have been, I think, 262 of them.
Yeah.
And just imagine putting that together, with the amount of work, the extra amount of expense and work it would take to have that. I'm hoping that we get to a place. I think that was a stopgap approach to between, say, 5 months ago and now, opposed to 5 months from now, which I think maybe we'll get to a place where, well, I don't like talking about this, you know that, but I think we'll get to a place where that's more viable science-wise, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully.
We'll see what goes on.
Fingers crossed.
This will be the test run, right?
Look, who's checking in tonight. There's your lovely wife. There's my lovely wife. Oh, yeah. And there's the one and only godfather, the badass himself, Charles Ricky. Pat, how you doing, buddy? Pat O'Doul, the one and only, the very cool brother of ours, Scott Chaney, John Del Rio. Johnny, I got a lighting guy. Johnny, so you got to leave me alone for a little while, because then I'm going to have 3 back-to-back audio guys and then a pyro guy. So I got like one of the best for you, baby. I did that for you, Johnny. I did it for you too, because I love baby, but you know, I'm just trying to been up my ass. And who do we got? Jonathan Eckerman. He's new. Welcome to the show, Johnny. Oh, he's reaching out because
that's Dum Dum.
Yeah, he's reaching out because he's feeling that. Right on, man. We're all feeling it too, John. I hope you're okay, brother. Reach out to us if you need us for anything.
Yeah, blessings to the whole 134 family for sure.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Right on, baby. You got anything else? Because I got a big show up in this motherfucker.
I think this is all you, dog.
You know, if you could work on the cussing, I would appreciate that.
Let me
My
see.
wife's not a
Let
big
me see.
fan,
I'll
really.
hone it down.
All the time. You're gonna do better.
I think I will.
You're fucking badass. I love you, man. Thanks. All right, good. All right, man.
It's good to see you.
It's all good. You got the comments on that
I
side? You
think
let
I
us
got
know
it.
if anything
If you
interesting
guys
comes
want
in.
to chat, hit me up on here.
All right, sweet. Listen, tonight we got a special show for you. Listen, it's all a mystery to me, man. If there ain't no sound coming out of it, if I can't make it like shock me in a good kind of way, I leave it to others. So what we need to do when I need to understand something as complicated as the lighting world, I reach out to my friends. And tonight we got us a special guest. This guy runs Felix. Felix is one of the largest lighting operations in the country. He runs the San Francisco branch. He's come through. He's done a bunch of touring with Circus Schmerkes, Circus Mechanics. He's worked at the Warfield, one of the best venues, in my opinion, in the world, and I've toured quite a few of them, and it's one of my favorite places to come back to. He's done plays and all kinds of stuff. He's really a fascinating cat. He's got this thing on lock, and we're going to talk to him about it. He's going to share our stories with us. He's the one and only Anthony Powers. How are you doing, my brother?
How are you?
Baby, I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you. It has been a while. Minute. It has been a minute since I've seen you. You're over there. We checked in on you today, and I loved that we had a little problem. You came in a little late, and I love it.
I did.
You came in a little late. Why'd you come in a little late today?
I was working.
I love that. He came in late because Felix pushing shows out, and that makes me very, very happy. That's exactly the reason to come here late. That is so perfect. I'm really glad to hear that you guys are doing some work over there. How have you been doing during this last year? Tell us about it.
I gotta admit, I feel bad saying that I've enjoyed being home with my wife.
Don't feel bad about
but
that.
when I met my wife, I was touring with Cirque Mechanics, and then I'd come home, I'd do whatever corporate events, or I'd go do other stuff. We didn't really get that much time. I mean, as you know, when you're on the road, you don't get that much time with your loved one.
Yeah.
And then I decided I wanted to stop touring about, I guess it was 2015, and stay home and spend more time with my wife,
Yeah.
And literally, I was home for, I want to say like 6 months, maybe 8 months, and my wife wound up with this job that she became a corporate speaker, like a keynote speaker.
Wow.
So she was then flying all over the world.
Yeah. She was
gone like a week, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks a month.
Wow.
For like 5 years. So we just kind of traded lives.
Right.
So the shutdown has been great because it's the first time we've ever had all this time together.
Really quality.
Like even since we started dating, we've never really had, and it's just been a blessing. Like I gotta admit, it's been the biggest silver lining is all the time I've gotten to spend at home with my wife. Because working in our industry too, even when you're home, it's like 18-hour days.
That's right.
Even when you go home, you got one more quote to get out. Or,
yeah.
You've got to get this plot done, or you got to get the gear list, or there's something wrong, and you have to go fix it. You're always on call, so it's just been. I've just had time, and it's been great.
That's a blessing, right there.
I'm anxious to get back to work. I'm really looking forward to it, but honestly, I've loved having this year off.
Well, I'm glad that you had that, but you're not wrong. It's time for us to, to get back into what we do. Yeah. And I think, me and the guys were doing some work in here yesterday or the day before. I guess over the last few days, we've had a few things going on here in the shop, some different bands playing and filming some things. And we had the occasion to move a bunch of gear yesterday, and we found out really quickly that we were a little out of
shape.
Yeah, we were a little dusty. This one's legs hurt over here.
Tell me about it. I was
huffing and puffing,
throwing multi and feeder into cases all week. I am so I'm obviously out of shape, and but I didn't realize how bad.
Atrophy.
Yeah,
type shape.
Yeah,
it's not
just you lose those muscles pretty quick.
Well, when they were talking about the COVID loss, some of the loss with COVID-19, I was like, I found it. I know where all that 19 is. It's right there, it's sitting right on my ass. There's been one of those things, and I think the way that guys like me and you tend to keep our health going is through the work.
Yeah.
We're not out doing exercise or walking around the block. We're working our asses off.
I mean, you do a show at Moscone or the SAP Center. You're going to walk like 40,000 steps in a day.
Exactly. And so that's been a little bit of a secret, even if we were aware of it or not. But we did this year after year after year, so it just was a muscle memory, which is a thing you just gear up and you go into it. This weird little break, which is just a kind of a big void in the middle of that experience, has been really hard to kind of reflectively understand and be prepared to. As right now, I feel like my crew is really dusty. Even with our little interactions here, this is certainly not putting on a big rock show. And so I was talking to George about it, and we were planning on, because we have some things coming up, so we're gonna fire the shop up a couple weeks early, get everybody on board, and shake the fucking dust off. And
during the pandemic when we first stopped, I would make every week I would draft a fake show, and I would just do it nuts to bolts, just to just to keep fresh and make sure I didn't lose. My CAD skills or my electrician skills, or any the brain work, didn't get rusty.
Sure.
So I did that. I mean, I still do it. Maybe now I do it once a month, but I was doing it once a week for the first 7 months.
Wow, that's very clever.
And it was actually fun. It was nice to get to concentrate on just a show at a time.
Yeah, talk about a luxury.
But which is a luxury we never get. But it was, I've kind of used the break to catch up on things. I actually did do a lot of reading.
Wow.
I got to, I just got to kind of do projects on the house, believe it or not.
Wow, that's very nice.
I should say my wife did projects around the house. I'm actually not very handy.
Oh, really?
If it doesn't have electricity, I don't know how to, I'm good at rigging and electricity.
Yeah.
Anything else, I suck. Like carpentry, I'm the worst.
Don't hand you a saw. Not going to work out well.
I don't know what to do with it. I'm the worst carpenter you've ever seen. And so my wife, she hangs the shelf. I hold things and I carry heavy things. That's my job.
No, that's the dude side.
And I
of
make
things.
coffee. I make really good coffee.
Wow, that's very. I totally
And those are all
understand.
useful skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are all useful skills.
Yeah, no, we balance each other out in our relationships.
And I've tried a few things. I got back into. I used to, when I was in college, I was a line cook.
Yeah.
So and I actually got into this industry from catering. Believe it or not.
I actually know that, and a little bit of a photography background.
Yeah. I came out here. I came out here to go to art school.
Right.
And I just could never bring myself to leave.
Yeah, this is a special spot.
Well, especially I moved here in '94. I mean,
Yeah.
San Francisco in the early '90s was fucking wild.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And I grew up in New York, so I was used to a certain amount of excitement.
Sure.
But what I wasn't expecting so much was just the blatant hedonism.
Yeah, there's
it was fucking crazy.
Yeah, the city's always been known for a certain amount of sexual promiscuity, and that's a wrong word.
I think that's a good
openness.
Word. Openness is
there's not
all different lifestyles.
Not a lot of hung up people in the city, really.
Yeah.
Or at least you're not going to do for well if you are.
But I grew up in Long Island, the part right next to Queens.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of openness. You were either Italian, Irish, Jewish, or Puerto Rican.
Right.
That was it. That was all that there was.
It's a very specific people there. They're kind of somewhat
there was no,
offset from the city of New York.
I didn't really know alternative cultures and lifestyles until I came here, and then especially going to art school.
And it was on blast.
It was eye opening, and it was wonderful, and it was so. So I don't know, being in this free open city.
That's right.
Was one of the coolest things.
I've always felt I've been to pretty much all the big cities in the North America through touring, and I always like coming back to the city. I like these different cities. Atlanta's one of my favorite cities. Pittsburgh.
Atlanta's great city.
There's some great cities.
I love Pittsburgh. Have you
Chicago
been there lately?
Is extraordinarily fun.
Pittsburgh's had a renaissance.
Absolutely, and it's beautiful. But they're just not the same as coming back to the city. Coming back to San Francisco, it has its own vibe.
There's nothing the same.
It's not like LA. It's just its own thing. It's a big city in a small space, so it's very manageable. But you can get a little bit different flavor from each section of it.
Just a creative energy that other cities don't have.
That's right.
Here,
that's absolutely right.
It's like a freedom just to be yourself.
Exactamundo. Yeah, the judgments are fewer and farther between, I think.
They are, which is great.
Yeah,
and
that's priceless in its own right.
Yeah, and so I came out here and I just couldn't leave. And when I graduated art school, I I was working as a photographer. I was like assisting on commercial shoots, catalog shoots, which were boring as fuck.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I can curse, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I was printing. I was doing a lot of custom printing.
Yeah.
Which I really love doing because custom printing is like a really like Zen art.
Yeah, there's an art form.
But
for
I
sure.
developed what's called contact dermatitis, which is you get basically horrible skin rashes from the chemicals.
Sure.
And the chemicals are really strong and really bad.
I imagine.
And so I don't know. I kind of got sick of doing photography. I didn't like it, and I quit. And I started catering. Like I was bartending for a catering company.
Yeah.
And I would see these people at the event setting up lights, and I was like, oh, that looks like so much cooler than catering. So I bothered one of the guys on one of the events I was bartending at, and I was like, he told me he worked for McCune.
Yeah.
And
McEwen Audiovisual.
I was like, all right. So I found the number in the phone book. There was a phone book
for McEwen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I called them. I must have called them like 2 or 3 times a week for like 2 or 3 months. And then finally, the guy
You're just blowing them up.
Yeah, finally they were like, "If you stop calling, we'll fucking hire you." I was like, done.
Tenacity, man.
So I went in and I met with Dave Molnar, who just retired.
Yeah.
And he was a great guy. And he was like, I see someone who doesn't know anything about what we do, but you seem eager, so
Yeah.
we'll give you a shot. And then I was fortunate at the time. Tom Mathis was running the lighting department there, and he's great. I don't know if you know Tom.
He's very talented.
He is, and
Yeah.
Tom taught me a lot of stuff. And the late, great Dave Kerr was there.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
Dave Kerr was like my mentor.
You're kind of hitting some real sweet spots
Dave
with
Kerr
you. You
was
got
one of-
lucky. Some of those mentors are really fucking.
Dave Kerr was one of the greatest human beings in the world.
Yeah.
And he taught me a lot. So I worked on and off at McCune. I worked at Da Vinci Fusion.
Yeah.
I worked a bit here and there for the local. I was doing a lot of theater stuff.
Sure.
My first theater show, I was doing lighting for McCune and Da Vinci for like 2 months. And then I saw an ad on Craigslist for a theater company that needed a lighting designer. So I was like, oh, I could do that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
2 months in, I can design.
Yeah. I was like, what do I got to lose? I know how to I was really good at studio lighting.
Yeah.
Right? Like studio lighting, I was really, really good at.
Okay.
So I assume that lighting a stage and lighting a photo, it's the same ratio.
Very similar,
like a 35
sure, I
millimeter
guess.
frame and a proscenium. And I was like, okay, well, lighting is lighting. That's how I looked at it. So I called this theater company. I called them. We talked. And they're like, well, you have no experience. I was like, yeah, but you have no money. So
That's kind of a match made in heaven.
you kind
right
of
there.
get what you pay for, And they gave me a shot, and I loved it. It was awesome. We had a great time. The show went really well. And then I did my second show, which I was so unqualified for. They hired me as the season designer at the Woodminster Amphitheater.
Oh, no shit.
I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. The
You're
first
just
show,
winging it.
the first show we did was The Sound of Music, which,
Probably a lot of cues that you had to follow.
well, it was. First off, I don't really like musicals. Like I just kind of wanted to try it.
Sure.
And but The Sound of Music really, I couldn't get that music out of my head. Like I would go home.
Like an earworm.
Yeah, like I'd go home and like listen to Slayer, and all I would hear is like Julie Andrews singing that shit.
The hills are alive.
Yeah, but like to Rain and Blood, And but the director
rough.
was like, "Oh, you know what you're doing. We don't need production meetings." I was like, "I really don't. Like, we need to have meetings."
Yeah, they
And
help.
So we get to do the first, at our first tech rehearsal, and I lit it like a Hitchcock movie, right? Because I couldn't really. I was like, oh, there's all these undercurrents in the show where they're like running and hiding from the Nazis.
And
I'm
sure,
like, I
sure,
could light
sure.
this by like.
You're gonna light it like birds.
Yeah, I did it like North by Northwest. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna light
awesome.
it like super shadowy and like
Yeah.
really strong lines.
Yeah.
And we get through the first act, and all of a sudden, it's an amphitheater, so the director's in a booth downstage center, and I'm in the back.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I just hear from the director's booth, Jesus Christ, what the fuck have you done? And I was like, well, they're like running from the Nazis. I thought we'd light it like film noir, And he was
Yeah.
like, it's a goddamn family theater, you asshole. I was like, oh. So like I had to stay there all night and change it, and
That's perfect.
and then from there I just kept doing a lot of theater, and eventually I actually decided to go to grad school for lighting design. I went to SF State,
Sure.
a lot of people in the Bay Area.
That's right.
And I had a wonderful teacher, Joan R. Helger, and she taught me a lot. She made me she definitely made me think about the process and get,
The why.
the why and the detail.
Yeah.
Like Joan was very detailed.
Sure.
So she really enforced that on me, because I just kind of came in like, I mean, back then it was like 2003, right? I was like day drinking most of the time. I didn't even own deodorant. I rode a bike everywhere. Like I was like this like horrible like mess of a punk, And I was just like in everyone's face all the like. I was just like rah, and but like I was always like I wasn't an aggressive person. I was just like a funny like I just like to have fun,
Sure.
And she was like got me to be somewhat more professional, and also coming from a private art school, like you're actively taught to question everything.
That's true.
And in theater, you're not really meant to question everything. So,
it
was an adjustment.
And that's part of the game. And
but I learned a lot. I learned how to talk to directors, which is a very
that's
skill.
extraordinarily important, I imagine, as an LD, especially for plays. I know you spent some time over at the Regency Ballroom. Really great.
I
great
love that
spot.
job. That was one of my favorite jobs ever.
Yeah, it's a great place.
I did.
It's
I was
great
one
venue.
I was one of the house LDs there for like 3 or 4 years, and the guys at the time, the guy who was running it, Justin Katz, and then John Garrett, they were great. They're friends. The time the Regency was one of the last real like rock venues.
It's a great room.
Yeah, all the metal bands came through there, which was ideal for me.
Some really cool shows.
That's the music that I really love to listen to. I learned really quickly that I work better as a programmer for bands I'm not super into.
Yeah.
Like if I'm really into the band, I'm actually really not that like. I have a hard time.
You're enjoying the show opposed
I get into
to
the
making
music
the show
too much, you know. And like the first show they asked me to program for as the house LD was it was Death Angel, Anthrax, and I forget who else was on that bill.
Those are two fucking solid bands right there.
Great bands, right? And I was
Death
like,
Angel Kill.
I was like, there's no way I can do this.
Yeah.
And they were like, what do you mean? The guy who was the LD at the time, Andres Kasparovics, who's a good friend of mine. I was like, I can't. I was like, because they're going to play Among the Living, and I'm going to flip over the console and run into the crowd. Like, there's no way I want to be stuck behind the console when Among the Living is playing. Like I just can't do it. So, I learned real quick, like if I'm going to program for a band, it's a band I like.
Yeah.
I can kill. But if it's a band I love,
could be tricky.
I just want to listen to the music, Like,
it's not unreasonable. It's not unreasonable. Now, luckily in our business, I don't know, maybe with the scenario you just laid out, we don't get to often work for the bands.
That was the nice thing about the Regency. And then, Justin also managed a lot of the stuff at the Warfield.
Sure.
So, and I know all the guys over there.
Of course.
Rob Robertson and all those guys. And
Tony Biancalana.
Yeah, and Josh.
Yeah.
And they were really cool. So like if a band was playing.
Is this when this around the turn of the millennia?
No, this was later. This was way later. This was like 2010-ish, 2012.
So would that be, what the hell was it called? He used to work here. He's my friend and I'm forgetting his name right now. Morgan Pittman.
It was after Morgan.
Was it after Morgan?
It was after Morgan.
I got you.
So they would do things like, I remember Slayer came in for a 3-day run and I was like, guys, come on. They were like, of course. They just let me come in and be the house LD for 3 days so I could hang out with which was a dream come true. I mean, for me, it's not, just sitting in a room listening to Slayer all day was just kind of amazing.
Yeah, you could have worse problems.
It was amazing. It was great. They were doing these like special VIP things where like you could come in beforehand and like Alex Skolnick would join them from Testament and they'd like jam out on stage doing Led Zeppelin songs. Like, it was fucking killer. And it was awesome. And anyway, so like I got to do a lot of that stuff. The people at Golden Voice up here, Justin and John were really cool about me. I got to like light all my favorite bands at some point, like
Pretty
everyone
cool.
from like Overkill down the line.
It's funny. I was listening to Overkill the other day, and I hadn't heard him forever. And
Overkill.
And just some reason or other, I just was like, I'm playing some Overkill.
There's something about Bobby Blitzer's voice in like the first 2 albums. It's like so obnoxious.
Yeah,
like,
his approach is kind of singular.
Yeah. It's like you just feel
fun.
like
like
it's like,
guttural and it's intense.
It's just like his voice is the sonic personification of a middle finger.
It has that vibe. Yeah. I think I like the way you summed that up.
Yeah.
I know that I mentioned that you're general manager over at Felix, but I think you kind of came in the doors over there as a production manager. What's it like to production manager at Felix?
Well, after I quit touring, I had actually was thinking I was just going to like throw my lot in with the 16.
Sure.
I've always kind of danced around it, and I'm a big fan of Local 16.
Union supporter.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
man.
a big fan of them. Big
Yeah.
fan of the 107, 134,
Yeah,
611 down
Yeah.
in Monterey. Can't forget you guys.
No, you're spreading the love out.
They're all great people. It's great organizations.
Sure.
I was gonna like kind of throw in my lot and push for my apprenticeship, but and then the Felix job just kind of popped in my lap
Yeah.
out of the blue. And I wasn't too sure that I wanted a full-time job.
Sure.
I hadn't had one in a long time.
You were used to more freelancing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I met with David McKinnon, the owner of Felix, and he's just like I don't know, like we had these great conversations, and he's just the kind of guy you want to work with.
Wow.
Like he's
Lucky.
he's awesome. Like we had these great. We barely talked lighting in my interview. We just like talked about life, and we were laughing half the time, and we had a great conversation. And he knows so much about lighting. Like he knows what if he owns it, he knows what it does.
Sweet.
Like
As it should be.
He's just like a encyclopedia. Anyway, so like I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I'll take the job. And it was. I always say it this way. Like I thought I was a really good production manager before I worked at Felix, and then I realized how much I needed to get like where I needed to be was like way further than where I was. Like the epic scale with which we do things sometimes.
You guys go big. That's for damn sure.
And it was eye opening, and like I was really, really kind of trying to run with the pack, and I feel like I succeeded.
Well, you were running with Gabe Nashon and Tiffany over there. At that time.
Gabe. I worked with Gabe at Delicate.
You didn't.
Gabe never
didn't
worked
he spend
for
some
Felix.
time? I thought he was at Felix for a minute, and then he
No.
went over to Fuse.
No, he went right from VER to Fuse.
That's it. It was
It's
VR.
VR.
I don't know why.
They were like a mile away from our warehouse.
I think that's what my confusion is. You guys are literally like could throw a rock and hit each other's front door.
Yeah, I was like a production manager up here for the SF office. I was the head production manager.
Pretty sweet.
It was awesome. It was a great gig.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, and in a sense, most of my job now as the general manager is I still do a lot of. It's more like a director of production job.
Sure. Sure.
I'll be blunt. Like I'm really terrible at like the actual GM paperwork. But I'm really
big
good at
paperwork
looking
fan,
over.
huh?
But I'm really good at the technical aspects of shows. So it's. I mean, thankfully, I have Tiffany Wood who assists. Like me and her,
She's
basically.
extraordinary.
Well, me and Tiffany basically co-run the San Francisco office. Right?
Yeah, that's when we were in full swing and we'd come and sub rent from you guys, we would usually deal with Tiffany on some level.
Oh yeah. She's great. She does all the sub rentals.
Yeah, and you need to come back with all the stuff she sends you because she's on it.
Oh, she is.
There's no slipping when it comes to Tiffany.
There
man.
is not.
Yeah, and hats off to her because it's largely.
She's super efficient.
Yeah,
like
she
she
knows her
really
gig.
knows what
Yeah.
she's doing, and
That's
she
right.
loves what she does, and she's
Yeah.
very conscientious. And I couldn't
Absolutely.
really do it without her.
Yeah, she's extraordinary.
She's great. But we split it mostly. Like so, Tiffany runs operations, and logistics.
Sure.
And I do anything that's production related.
Gotcha.
I also deal with anything that has to do with the building, outside vendors, the unions.
So that's the division of labor. You kind of
Basically what it is, yeah. So
makes
I mean,
sense.
like if the bathrooms break, I've learned a lot about industrial plumbing in the past 5 years. A lot.
Well, GM kind of gets his fingers in all the pies.
And all the pipes too. Yes.
Yeah, and the pipes. Yeah, that's true.
But it's been great. It's been I actually really, I would say like in all honesty, I really love my job.
Do you miss? I mentioned that you've toured a great deal with
I do miss
a couple of
touring.
different. Do you miss the travel and
Do.
the kind of the different schedule that provides?
You know what I miss?
What?
It's like this funny thing that theater people will understand this. I miss walking into a theater right before load-in, looking out into the house, turning off just looking out in the house, taking a deep breath of like the empty space, and then starting. Like I miss that sound of like my boots on the boards.
Yeah,
That's what I miss. And like I also miss the people. Cirque Mechanics was a really close family. Like I'm still really close with the tech crew from that show. Like Janine Johnson, who was our production manager.
Yeah.
Chris Lashua, who is the creative director, still a really good friend of mine. He's a maniac. He's just a creative genius.
Well, explain because I don't think a lot of our
So-
viewers will understand who Cirque Mechanics is.
Cirque Mechanics is a small independent cirque show.
Yeah. known
It's
for
a company. We are
but they're known
we-
for kind of being in a little avant.
So Chris Lasher, the guy who started the company with
Yeah.
another actor, he started with Aloysia. I always mispronounce her last name, and she's probably going to, at some point, she sees this, yell at me. Aloysia Garve.
Okay.
Garve? I can never
Yeah,
pronounce
I'm not
it.
touching that one.
And me neither. But Sean Riley, who I don't
Okay.
know if you guys know, people in the Bay Area know who Sean is. He's
Yeah.
a rigger. He owns a company called Gravity Designs.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve, I can't believe I'm blanking on Steve's last name. Holy shit. I spent like 6 years on the road with him. But anyway, they all came from Cirque. Well, not Sean, but Aloysia, Chris, and Steve all came from Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
And if you guys have ever seen
Those are some
Kidam,
good roots.
have you ever seen Kidam?
I don't think so.
Have you ever seen Kidam?
No.
You guys ever see Kidam, the wheel act? Chris started that act. Like that's his act.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
Aloysia did the hoop act, and there's all these like famous photos of like the juggler like walking in the air. That's Steve's act.
Wow.
So they started their own company, which was called Cirque Mechanics, and it was based on Chris's brainchild of all these innovations of how to how to make the apparatus into like these just like functional machines. So there's like this. We put Chris's German. Well, we didn't. Chris did. Chris put his German wheel in this cart, and the cart would like as he would turn in the wheel, the cart would go across the stage, and it would bring Aloysia up and down on her
That's
sear
cool.
wheel, on her seal, her sear. You know, and then it was like things like we had a trampoline wall, and then they kind of tried to just incorporate all these scenic items into like these mechanical objects that would become circus apparatus.
Right.
And the first show was a show called Birdhouse Factory, which in the circus world is like a really like epitomal show. Like it's like one of those shows, like one of the show, like
Yeah.
you know, like Led Zeppelin at the Forum kind
Yeah,
of
it's a
shows.
big
You
deal.
know? It's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and then I joined the company. Probably they'd been touring Birdhouse at that point for 3 years when I joined the company. My friend Blake Manship was the original lighting director.
Uh-huh.
And Blake just decided he didn't want to do all the shows anymore. He wanted to like share it. So
Yeah.
I knew Blake we actually started working at McCune like the same week.
Wow.
So I've known him for a long time, and I'd always like, hey, if you don't want to do that gig anymore, I'd love to
Give it
to
up.
do it.
Give it to me.
So when he decided he wanted to step back a little bit, he called me. And then it just, I don't know, like me and Chris became really good friends really fast. And, you know, me and Steve became good friends. And the clown Jesse Dryden, who's still a really good friend of mine, we talk a bunch.
Yeah.
Jesse actually hired me. Jesse was the director for Circus Smirkus, which is a kids' circus camp in Vermont. And every spring they'll like audition like 500 kids from around the world.
Wow.
And they pick the best 25, and those 25 do like what's called a mud show. It's like a traditional circus tent show.
Right.
And they train. They come in. I think they go to Vermont like the week after. Is Memorial Day first or Labor Day?
Oh, hell,
Memorial,
I don't know.
I think, right?
That's all
Whatever the
about it.
first one is in May. They go, so they're like in Vermont like the first week of June, and then they stay there until basically Labor Day,
Wow.
which ends the summer, and they'll do like 70 shows. So
Damn.
they'll train for 4, maybe 5 weeks with master coaches from all around the world, and then the tech crew comes in, and we put the show on. Like we design the show. The costume designer, I was the lighting designer for 5 years.
You did 5
props
years
designer.
with these guys, right?
I
With
loved it.
Circus Smirkus?
You know, I always kind of scoffed at people who were like, "Oh, the place is magical," but circus is magical.
I think so. You know what that is when people do that? It's the verbiage.
It is the verbiage.
It's the verb because it sounds a little too ethereal and
Yeah,
spiritually
but
and touchy feely, but there can be a magical quality to some of these things we get up to.
Smirkus was a magical place.
Yeah.
It still is a magical place. It's deep in
Sounds
the
very
mountains.
special.
It's on a mountaintop in like middle of nowhere, Vermont, in Greensboro, Vermont.
And Vermont's a beautiful state.
Vermont's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So it's like its own mountain. It's like on this like mountain 2 hours north of Burlington.
Wow.
Like in the middle of nowhere. There's
Yeah.
like cell phone reception in like a cow pasture. Like, that's it, you know, and
Even more remote than like Green Mountain.
it's really remote.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I consider it camping, you know, but like we'd stay in bunk trailers and like it's all these like circus professionals. Like the tent boss was one of the tent bosses from Cirque du Soleil, and this is how he spends his summers. You know,
Right.
like everyone's there, not because it's like more financially like
You're killing
a
it.
windfall, but you know, you're there because you love it. It's just such an amazing. The kids are incredible. Like the things that they learn and the show they put on, and just the whole environment of just this just
It sounds like
you're
you're
just on a
gathering
mountain, like making a circus with your
very
friends.
talented people that really believe in what they're doing.
It was
That's in its own right.
It
very
was
special.
incredible. It was actually, I looked forward to it every year. Like it was my one. It was like my favorite all time thing to do.
It's almost like vacation work.
It was almost like vacation work, you
Sure.
know, and it was fun. Like I had a great time. Made some really good friends. That's how I know Gabby, who was on the show a couple of weeks
Well,
ago.
you know, I wanted to bring that up here. See, right there. I
Yeah.
wanted to thank you for sending us
She's
Gabby.
great, isn't she?
So I don't really have people on the show I don't know, and she was the first person
She's
to have
fantastic.
on the show.
Gabby's
and
awesome.
because you sent her to us.
She,
and I tell you, I'm sitting here with Snoopy, William Forquay yesterday, our dear friend Snoopy.
Yeah.
And he brought her up. And we were talking about shows past, and many people thought her show was one of our best shows because she's an extraordinary intelligent girl.
She's amazing.
She is really,
And
she's like professional and sharp and
Such a good
and
lighting designer.
really, really talented, and
Yeah.
just comports herself in such a way. I mean, we had an extraordinary. I felt like she was kind of slumming with us a little bit because we're naughty roadies and little obnoxious males, and
Well, Gabby's brother Ben,
he's a sound guy, right?
he's a sound guy, but he was the technical director on Smirkus.
Right.
And we just got to be good friends. You know, he's a great guy. And
Well, it
he's
was
really talented, super smart, like Gabby.
We
you know?
really appreciate you sending her. She was a fantastic
She's chiming
guest.
in right now.
Is
sending
Gabby
her
checking
love.
in? There she
no, that's
is.
Ben. That's her brother right there.
Oh, that's
Well, right
no.
above, she was saying something you were talking about. She was super inspired by. Right here.
But yeah, Ben is still at
I'm just
Smirkus.
venturing coat sounded.
Anyway, so
She was a wonderful guest, and it was a great ad. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sending
no,
it to us.
no,
And thank
glad.
you, Gab. I can't tell you this enough, dear. But many folks, to as recently as yesterday, have referred to that show as one of our best shows, and I can't disagree with them. You were an extraordinary guest. Lovely girl.
So I don't know. So I mean, it was nice. Anyway, but back to Cirque Mechanics, like we did Birdhouse Factory, and then second show was Boomtown, which was great. I got to take that was my first time working on Broadway. I got to take that show
Yes.
as I was the lighting director. I didn't design it. Deanna Fitzgerald did an amazing job designing that show.
Which house were you in?
The New Victory,
Oh, that's a beautiful one.
and Deanna was the lighting designer from Stomp.
No
So
kidding.
she designed this show. She was great. She was amazing to work with.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about lighting design from Deanna. Like
Well,
she
that's
is
the big leagues right there.
Yeah, she's top. She's the real deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the next show that came out was Pedal Punk, which I designed, which also went back to the New Victory.
No kidding.
That was my first credit.
What was it called? I'm sorry.
Pedal Punk?
Pedal Punk.
That was a great show. That was fun.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
And then we did a show that we called the Orchestra Project, where we would take the show. We would basically we built a show around. Michael Picton was he's the composer for all the circus shows, Cirque Mechanics shows, and he picked like this whole curated a bunch of classical compositions, and Chris had built this. He built it for Pedal Punk, and we used it for Pedal Punk. We used it for the Orchestra Project, and we adapted it for our last show, 42 Feet. But Chris and Riley built this goalpost out of 20-inch truss. It's like 20 feet tall. It's about 15 feet wide.
Yeah.
And it's got pontoons, and you could pedal it around the stage.
Oh, that's cool.
It's Chris's background. He's a BMX freestyler. He's one of the original BMX street team guys.
Gotcha.
And so everything in Cirque Mechanics shows has something to do with bicycles, like something to do with gears.
Yeah, sure.
And so they built this and it doesn't, like when you see it, you're like, it doesn't look like it should move, but it does. Like two guys sit in the pontoons and they just pedal this fucking huge goalpost all around the stage while those acrobats swing.
Wow.
It's terrifying to watch sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so we made like a version of that for orchestras, and we were going around and performing with orchestras all over the country. We didn't do that many of them. I think we did like maybe, I don't know, maybe total a dozen or a dozen and a half. And then the last show was 42 Feet, which just played on Broadway right before the shutdown at the New Vic.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that was like one of the last shows I did was at the
New
Vic in New York, and then we shut down. Yeah.
Wow.
And we got some pretty good reviews. The New York Times seemed to like us.
That's very cool. Very cool. Sounds like you've been involved with some very interesting shows, a lot of fun, unique stuff.
Working in the circus was an accident. I never expected that, but it was probably one of the greatest experiences. I made some really good friends who I'm still friends with today. Dave Freitag was our rigger for Birdhouse in Boomtown. And, Wes Hatfield was one of the acrobats, and we're still good friends. You just make these friends. And
it's one of the best parts of our job is that we get to, meet new and interesting people around the world. Certainly around the country, and
we got to take
come away with some lifelong friendships.
Yeah, we took Birdhouse all across Europe, Hong Kong, Dubai.
Yeah, you did Asia, you did Europe, you
Hong
did
Kong was
the States.
Hong Kong was hysterical. We had a version of the set in storage in Holland.
Okay,
and the promoters that we used in Europe were also the same promoters for Hong Kong. They sent some people they didn't send us, they sent some of their people to load all the scenery onto another shipping container, which then they sent over to Hong Kong. We're unloading it. When we load in, we always load the trampoline. We build the trampoline last.
Okay.
It's big, it takes up a lot of space.
Sure.
We finished loading in, and we're like, okay, let's go build the trampoline. And everyone's looking for the trampoline. We're like, well, where the fuck is the trampoline? And we're like, holy shit! And it was a big theater. The theater in Hong Kong, it was probably the stage was about the size of the SF Opera.
Wow!
But they also had a rehearsal stage the same size just off stage left.
Wow!
And behind it, they had a whole nother stage with another 100 line. I think they had 80 or 90 line sets over the stage, and then behind it was a whole nother stage where you could have full scenic.
That's awesome.
Your sets, your full sets built,
Sure.
And you could just wheel them out from back. So
that's sweet.
it was 3 huge areas.
Yeah, that sounds massive.
It was massive, and it had a proscenium that could it was all automated. So the proscenium could move into different configurations.
Very
it was
cool.
Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
And
Hong Kong's on another level. If people haven't been there, it's not a large island, and it's very populated, and so basically everything goes up. Yeah, it's if you want to build, you build up.
You build up.
Yeah, it's a very special place, and it is alive.
It was.
Did you find your trampoline?
We did not because the promoter had left it in the container in Holland.
Oh shit!
So now we're in China and the trampoline's the closing act of the show. It's
it's a big part of the show.
It's a big part of the show.
Sure.
So we're freaking out. Luckily, we had the trampoline bed with us. That had made it.
Yeah.
So we just had to find a trampoline bed frame to put it on. But everything that we'd built in the States was in standard.
Yeah.
Everything in China is in metric.
Metric, yeah.
But we found one that worked, and the show went on. I was there for about 10 days. Once the show was up and running, I left, and they stayed for I think a 5-week run.
Yeah.
And it was the same in Dubai. Dubai was pretty killer. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
I have not been to Dubai. I have many
is-
friends who have, and it's a special place.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so clean. It's so modern. It's so precise.
Yeah, and
it's
hot.
So fucking hot. We were there in the summer, in June.
That's prohibitive. I can only imagine
brutal.
that. It's a very specific society with their, they allow, my friends from KISS were over there on New Year's and pulled off a world record pyro show.
Really? You know the guys from KISS?
Yeah.
You know I'm a huge KISS fan.
Oh, well, we're about
have
to
you seen
have...
my Ace Frehley tattoo?
Oh, no, I did not see your Ace Frehley. It's funny, you might want to show up here in a couple weeks when we have Toby Francis in here, was their front of house guy for 600 shows.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Yeah. And
my first concert was KISS.
Yeah, KISS rule.
My mom took me to see Lick It Up when I was 8.
When we were kids, we were in the KISS army and the whole bit,
Can you guys see my KISS face mask?
Yeah, he's not fronting. He's a KISS guy.
You guys see that? My wife built me a KISS face mask.
We've had a few KISS people here. A couple weeks ago, we had Pooch on us, maybe a month ago, and he got his first big break with KISS. Toby turned over the show to Pooch.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And so I
love KISS.
Toby was smart. Toby said, I'm done with the rock and roll acts. I'm going to Kanye and Ariana Grande, the ones that give you a little less grief, you know, where they just let you do your work. And, you know, rock bands tend to have a lot of input and sometimes not always the most helpful input. And so, but some of the bigger guys, Kiss is an extraordinary band. And,
I got to see their first reunion show at Madison Square Garden in 1996.
No shit.
Yeah, it was like the first time the original band had played together.
Yeah, they put on big shows.
Oh, it was amazing. So 28,000 people in Kiss makeup. They actually had to turn the band up twice.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, they came out and they
When was this?
It was 1996.
I bet you Toby was out front with that.
Talked to him about
Almost for sure.
It was a great show. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
That sounds like Toby's era right there. And yeah, you know, Gene Simmons knows how to bring a big show.
He does.
And Doc McGee, who hopefully we're going to have on the show here not too long.
Would you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to come in and just like geek out with Doc.
Doc is a special cat, man. I have to ask permission for that one.
Yeah, no, please.
Doc might have some ideas about that, but about having folks in the audience. But I will check into it for you.
I still think people make fun of me all the time, but for my money, Ace Frehley's one of the greatest guitar players in history.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but I would say Ace always had.
First off, he's cool.
Ace always seemed like he was. I can't say that. Ace always brought a little extra flavor to the band. That the rest of the band was kind of operating in this kind of professional thing, and they're doing their thing. And Ace was just like
he's just himself, you know. And he's got this like weird style of playing. And,
he's a unique cat.
He's got the most hummable solos.
I think you can't really, with Ace Frehley's early work, you can't really take one note out without the whole song collapsing, you know?
100%.
And I totally agree with that. I wouldn't say he was one of the most technically proficient.
No,
there's other guitarists that
actually incredibly sloppy.
Yeah, but he's Ace Frehley. And Ace Frehley is a pioneer.
Like one of the coolest guys in rock and roll.
Talk about a guy who took a lot of arrows. I mean, he was a badass. Yeah. So I totally, his solo stuff was very good as well.
Ace was great.
He's a heavy cat. He's super great.
His last album was really good too.
Yeah.
It's all cover songs, but he does them really well.
He's extraordinarily talented.
Real quick, your friend reached out. Jesse Fletcher said hello.
Oh, hey, Jesse.
Jesse's saying hi.
Jesse's a great guy.
Right on, Jesse. Thanks for tuning in, supporting the show, man, checking us out. We're lucky to have Anthony in tonight, and we're really happy about it. Remember the back in the days working over at Delicate Productions?
I do. I loved working at Delicate.
What are your memories of that?
But, you know, it was fun, man. It was a great place to be at the time. Like, it was exciting. Delicate was, I think, the first of the LA companies to come up here.
That's right.
You know?
They tried their hand.
And it was just exciting to be part. I mean, it's a great group. Delicate's. I mean, I still talk with Jason sometimes, and it's they're a great group of guys. I'm still pretty close with Gabe. Like we talk all the time. He's a great dude.
Gabe Nashon. Mm-hmm. I love Gabe.
It's great.
I'm trying to, Gabe, if you're watching, I want you on the show. It's hard. I need to get him out of his shell. He's busy being a daddy right now, though, you know?
Yeah, Miles is adororble. His kid's so cute.
Gabe, of course.
He's not that far from here. He's
I
2 miles from here.
I know exactly where he is. I tried to, early on in the show's history, I reached out to him when he was a little busy at the time. And so I just got to, I guess, try another time to get him over here because I would love to pick his brain for a few minutes. You know, he's got up to a lot it was stuff, and he's a very specific cat. And
he is.
He's got a lot to offer, so it would be fun.
It was fun working at Delicate. I mean, it was great to work with George, your brother.
Yeah, my brother loves you, as you know.
I miss George. He's a hell of a human being.
He's a good boy.
He really is.
Yeah,
you know,
he's special.
Just a genuine dude.
Like Special Olympics. I had to do that. I had to do that. He's my brother. Jorge Aguado, you know I'm joking, damn it. He's watching right now. He watches under the name Jorge Aguado.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
We did a lot of cool shows at Delicate, too. You know, I was the PM for the Red Bull King of the Rock shows.
Oh, yeah, super fun.
Those were fun. Live basketball show in Alcatraz.
Cold shows. Very, very cold.
Literally, the entire crew would have the flu like the next week. Like
rough.
We would all be just like decimatedly sick. Like it was terrible. Yeah. Like all of us would like.
It's a really rough.
You were on that island in September, which is freezing cold in the bay. You'd be there for like 6 nights in a row.
One of the coolest backdrops you can have for a show. But my God, putting it on is just vicious. Well, you can't do it. You can't disfigure. Nothing can be changed. You know,
you also can't have any beams go above the walls.
Yeah, there's some it's the Park Services, I believe.
Like at first I didn't quite know I'd never worked on Alcatraz before this gig.
Yeah.
And, and they were like, you can't have beams of light go above. I was like, why? They're like, because you're in the middle of the bay. Someone may think it's a lighthouse.
Yeah, light pollution. There's some other issues with it.
There's all kinds of maritime issues.
That's exactly what it is. It's navigation.
And the park police were like strict.
Oh man, they're not kidding.
No, they weren't.
They are super not kidding.
Yeah,
They
were
will
not
bust
good.
your balls. I mean,
They
you,
did,
you
actually.
crack a little bit of a stairway, you know.
They were
You're
right
up,
there.
They will
They were right
have
there.
your butt.
And
Yeah.
being in Alcatraz, for anyone who's been there at night will understand this. It's
It's a little scary.
creepy. It is so. Like, that place is actually.
Any other way to put it.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
the place is actually really haunted. It was creepy as hell.
Well, you know, the history of that place goes back to the Civil War,
Yeah.
and you know, army barracks, and then it was prisons, stockades, and it was, you know, and then of course its modern era is a gangster haven
Yeah.
for some of the worst criminals in America.
Yeah.
And a lot of shady things are
A
taking
lot of
place
shady.
there.
But you hear like you just hear weird noises.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't. I mean, like, I'm not one of those, like, you always see in the movies, they go investigate.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, you're not doing that.
No. Oh,
You know?
hell no.
Go down Soapbox A and check it out.
Nope. Like,
Andy, we heard something down there in that
I
dark
hear a noise
space.
over there, I'm going that way. You know, like, it was,
Yeah.
but it was creepy. Like,
Yeah.
I never saw any ghosts, you know, but like, you could
You
hear
sensed them though, didn't you?
You like,
Yeah.
it gets ridiculous. Like, it's cold. It's really cold.
Yeah.
But like, there's a different kind of chill when you're
No,
in
it's
the cell
like
blocks.
scary cold. Like
Yeah.
it changes cold is
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You can be in the initial cold and then get that sensation and it somehow drops like 10 degrees.
Yeah, and it's like
you're
this like
what
weird
the hell?
like chill at the base of your
There's-
spine.
I
You're
feel like there's something in our presence right now that is malevolent.
Every
It's
time I
not
had to
good.
go in, I
Yeah.
hated going in
That's
the cell
real.
blocks.
Yeah.
We would store all our gear in the cell blocks.
Yeah.
And I hated going in there by myself.
A lot of history
so
in those
if
blocks.
I had to go in there, I would run. You know, like
you didn't get a part. I didn't know
I'm
going in
clearly
there.
not a runner, but like I would
not your strong
run in and out. You know.
Hit and run that son of it.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I could talk to you for hours. I actually had
Oh, God,
many
yeah,
more,
time.
but yeah, we're up against it, baby. And it was really, I can't tell you, you know, I know you worked all day and you're going at it. I think what you say, you had 2 shows you pushed out today, right?
Yeah.
And you ran right into overtime on that, and you still made it over here to sit with us.
Busy guy.
Well, I know, and I
was
love
hoping
this,
to see.
though.
I was hoping to see George.
Yeah, well, you know,
I
he
miss
had a
that guy.
thing at the house.
He's chimed in. He's watching on
he
the
had to run home
YouTube.
and do
I'm
some
super
daddy stuff.
bummed he's not here.
He was here till about 5, and then it was like, oh man, I got to bail. He was bummed out too. He very much was planning to be here and hang out with you
Love
and
that
catch
guy.
up with you, but he got called home to his, you know, he got 3 kids, 3 young kids at the house, so he had to do some daddy stuff.
Yeah.
But he told me to send his love and tell you to thank you for coming and seeing us at Sound Image, and you know, and all the support we get from you during the year and during our normal course of business, B2B with you, you know, business to
We're
business.
happy to work with you guys. We love you
Yeah,
guys.
we love you guys, and you're always, you know,
that's the nice
supplement
thing
and
about
make our
the-
things happen.
I feel that's the nice thing about the Bay Area, the production community.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, yeah, in some sense we're all competitors, but really we're just
you know, we don't play it
like
that way
it's too
here.
close. Like we're all too close to each other.
Yeah,
Like,
to us, we feel like there's
Like,
enough work for all of
there's
us,
enough
and we
pie
share.
for
If
everybody.
you come up, if there's something we've got in our inventory that you need, which rarely happens, you know it's here for you. You
Yeah.
can friggin' tell us. We'll help you.
But you know, it's just such a friendly, like, you know, it's I don't know, the Bay Area production communities.
It's a little
little
less
different.
cutthroat than in some of the other large metropolitan areas.
I would say so. You know,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of it has to do with like how small and insular it is.
That's true.
You know, like at some point we all kind of really came up together. You know.
Well, that is for sure. And I think the other part is we do want to see each other succeed. You
Yeah.
know, at the same time we have our own little fiefdoms,
And there's
that's a real
friendships
thing.
that go back decades. you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, like you said, there's almost a little bit of an incestuous quality to it.
Almost.
You know,
Almost.
Yeah, the almost part is the key part, almost. But it is there, and we've shared a lot of. You know, you've worked at least one of other places with us.
Many.
Yeah, I would say more than one, and so that's a very normal story in our system here, and it works for us. You know, it works for us, and I think it works for the whole community because we have some of the best venues, we have some of the coolest shows. You know, from the stuff we do in the park, the stuff we do out of Napa, the different venues that we have from the Shoreline to wherever it is at Oracle. You know, we're very lucky to be in.
I miss Shoreline. I love that place.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to have McFadden in here, I think, next 2 weeks from
Oh,
now.
really?
2 weeks.
Yeah, so we're going to have McFadden in here. We're going to talk Shoreline, you know, and all the many
What a
things that
great
he's
venue.
created. But some of my favorite shows were good. The Bridge School shows were,
Oh,
I mean,
I never
come
got
on.
to see any of those, but like,
Oh, buddy.
what the lineups on those things were amazing.
We'll talk Bridge School after this. Those are some of the best lineups of all time. You know, 23, 24 of them we did over there. And, you know, these are like ridiculous lineups. You know,
Yeah.
you can have Pearl Jam with the Faux Fighters, with Josh Groban singing with the Smashing Pumpkins, all doing a thing with Neil Young. You know,
You know,
It's
I got to see-
all over the
I
same
saw-
show. It's like, what the hell?
I saw
You know?
Pearl Jam at the Roseland Ballroom in New York right before 10 came out.
Oh, no kidding.
And like no one really knew. Like we just knew it was Mother Love Bone with a new singer.
Basically.
Yeah. And they were opening up for it was Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, and the Chili Peppers.
Wow, great show.
That's a lineup.
And Pearl, yeah, it was amazing.
Well,
and
it's a pre
all
10,
Pearl
that was
Jam,
a lineup.
it was like
That's
they
fun.
just had the songs from 10, which they played the whole album basically.
Great
That's all
album.
they had.
Classic album.
And like at the end of their set, like the place was, and Roseland's like 6,000 people, I think.
Yeah.
At the end of their set, it's like dead quiet for like 10 seconds. And then the place went, because everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And like then the place went nuts. And then I hadn't seen Pearl Jam again until they played Outside Lands here.
Yeah.
And that had to be about a 20-year difference. And they were just as good.
Yeah, they're
Like
one of the. I think they
couldn't
were.
believe 20 years had passed.
For me, they were way better than Mother Love Bone. That reincarnation was a better version
Yeah.
for me.
I didn't
enjoyed
like
them a
Andrew
great
Wood's
deal.
voice.
I struggled with
was
Andrew
annoying.
a great deal. He was actually a very kind.
Did you know him?
Yeah, he was a very sweet young man. He was very outgoing. He was very gregarious. He was one of those touchy-feely, but
Yeah.
there was a slight effeminate quality to him that used to kind of push me back a little bit. And then, of course, he was a little free and easy with the periodic table, which made us a little frightened of him because
Yeah.
we didn't know.
Did a lot of drugs.
You can, and then, of course, Green River, so there was
I
all
love
this.
Green River.
Yeah, so there's
Did you know
all-
Mark Arm?
Yeah. We'll talk about it after the show.
Okay.
Yeah, but I interview you here, brother.
Oh, okay. Mark Arm's like a fucking legend.
I know, and we came up in a time when these were just the bands that are amongst us. They did not have success. They were just kind of tooling around. The Bud Honeys and the Screaming Trees and all the different bands.
They're great bands.
Yeah, I love these bands. And then they kind of went out of nowhere. And it was really a strange time because we were out with Nirvana before Nirvana was anything. And all of a sudden, Nirvana is this thing, and it was we rode that horse all the way to in utero, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, and then sadly,
what happened with that? It was just a crazy time to be in rock and roll, but it was a lot of fun.
You know what I always tell my my nieces and nephews?
What's that?
If you meet anyone over 45 and they don't like the Pixies, don't trust them.
Yeah, that's very.
That's a good rule.
Highly
Yeah,
suspect.
that's my one rule for life.
Highly
Like-
suspect. If you're not down with Black Francis, there's something wrong
Like
with
if
you.
you're over 45 and you do not like the Pixies, I don't trust you.
What's your favorite album from them?
From the Pixies?
Yeah.
I would have to say Surfer Rosa.
Mine was Trump Alaman, man.
Really?
That album,
I don't meet very many people who say Trump.
Yeah, I know because it's very different from what their
But
normal.
UMass is a great song.
That's
Alec Eiffel is fucking awesome.
I love Alec Eiffel. I love it. It's a system of there's a Planet of Sound. There's just,
Planet of Sound's it's a loud song. It's good.
It's just a really big full.
Have you listened to any of their later albums, like the newer ones?
No, actually, I haven't followed them in many years. You
know,
saw I have a bunch of their
Yeah,
artwork over here.
The
and
last album was pretty good.
it's probably been. I bet you haven't followed their career since like maybe 2004.
Wave of Mutilation is still one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah, they're extraordinary. I like Frank Black by himself as well, and of course the Breeders stuff.
Doolittle
Breeders was good.
Doolittle was pretty hard to beat in my
Doolittle's
head.
a great
these are
album.
Maybe
great
it was just
albums.
my generation, but I fucking loved
No,
that.
this is a
Doolittle's
very
fantastic.
solid album. You're not wrong about that.
There's almost no bad Pixies album. Like
They kind of they change. There's
Yeah.
a different energy for each of their albums, and I felt like Doolittle and Surfer Rosa, there was a kind of a thread going through it, but I feel like they kind of clipped the thread when they got to Trump Alaman and kind of reinvented themselves a little bit. And for
Yeah,
me, it had a more of an energy that I could relate to. But I always dug the playing.
their version of Head On is
Yeah,
way better than Jesus and Mary Chains.
that's kind of saying a lot right there, bro.
Dude, it is though. Like
You're gonna start a little
Am I
riot
going to
on
start a
this.
war? I'm not ashamed to say the Pixies do a better version.
Cortez
on.
is Roberto Cortez is saying debaser.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, the bass is a
That
great
one
song.
slaps.
Great. Yeah, no, Roberto's not wrong. Listen, my brother, thank you very much
Oh, it's
for
a pleasure.
coming out
This
here.
was a lot
It
of
was
fun.
absolutely great to see you. You
Yeah.
keep care of yourself. Send love to the wife, and
I will.
hopefully we'll be over at your shop soon. Siphoning
You guys
off
are
a bunch
welcome.
of your
You
good
guys are just
stuff.
welcome to come by and hang out.
I appreciate that. Thank you,
Yeah.
brother.
Me and Vinny are just gonna roll through one day. We'll hang out.
With a truck. Start emptying the place. Excuse me. It's cold in this shop, man. I'm fucking tripping out over here. Excuse me. Thanks again, my brother.
No worries,
Be
man.
well.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, it was great having you tonight. This was super fun. This cat's super fun. I learned a little bit more about lighting. I swear I'm lost in that whole world. I just have them turn them on, and I enjoy what they do. And so I appreciate when they share their knowledge and their experience with us. Next week we have a really interesting, a hell of a guy. We've got an Australian who lives in Canada, married to a French Canadian girl that works for one of my favorite sound companies in the world, one of my favorite manufacturers, which is Adamson. Adamson is one of the by far coolest boutique sound companies. And this is Jeremiah Kearney. He's going to be our guest next week. We're going to bring him in.
We're gonna ask him about the E series. Right?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna go
all
get
got-
up in his shit. Like,
we all
talk to
got
me about
love.
the 219s. I want. I love. How do you get those things to sound like that? I mean, he's been in here many times where he comes in and he'll train us up on some of the gear that we have, and then get our guys and how do you fly the shit right. He's for them, he's known as their applications engineer, which is a very special title, which means he's the guy that tells you how to do shit right with their gear, how to make it function the way it's designed. And he's an extraordinary cat, so we're really looking forward to him. Please tune in next week at 7 p.m. On Thursday, we'll have Jeremiah Kearney. It's going to be a lot of fun. I appreciate you for what you do. You're a good man. I want to send a shout out to Michael Brown. He's back there friggin' the octopus, keeping it all together.
The legend.
The badass Mikey Brown. He's got a new album out for his band called Arsa, A-R-S-A. Is that right, Mikey? All right. This band shreds. Like, he's my good friend, so I would probably lie right here. But actually, I don't have to. Like, this band is ridiculous. Like, if you like fast, heavy metal music, like really well done with an extraordinarily talented drummer, that's Michael Brown's band. Arsa, check it out. Can they get that on Spotify, Mikey? Yeah, Spotify, baby.
Celtic
Arsa.
death metal.
It's
fucking brutal.
It's
and awesome.
insane shit, and it's really, really well done. And I can't say enough about it. I want to send out a little love to our regulars. We're already over time, so why not go there? John Del Rio, Charlie Zaricki, Pat O'Doul, a bunch of our heads.
Look at John Del Rio poking fun of the two sound guys.
What'd he say?
What? A sound guy? Yes.
I told him. I warned him early on in the show I was going to hit him with 3 in a back-to-back next week. Jorge Eduardo. I want to thank Gabby Schiff one more time. She was an extraordinary guest, and it was an absolute treat. She's an extraordinarily talented woman and a bright, bright future ahead. So I wanted to thank her for her contributions to our show. It's guests like that give us some validity and help us carry this weight. We really very much appreciate it. We appreciate you guys. If you appreciate what we're doing, can you do me a favor on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch? Will you hit the little like thing and subscribe? It helps with the algorithm. We will see you next week with Jeremiah Kearney. Until then, you guys be nice to each other. Be kind. We'll see you again. Peace.